Hello humans, I am Tommy and this is InCamera, and today we're going to be creating the opening shot for a film set during World War II. Now it takes place over Dresden. We're following a Lancaster crew after the first wave of bombing, so the city is on fire. We're going to be doing this in multiple passes with motion control for the first time. We're going to be doing some fire effects, we're going to be doing cloud effects. We've got some little servo searchlight things. Join us. World War II led to some of the most unspeakable atrocities in human history, and we want this opening shot to hit home the scale of devastation unleashed upon Dresden. To create our city, JP found a high-res aerial image and had it printed in black and white across 28 sheets of A1 paper. He's numbered each piece so we don't get confused, and while he lays them out in order, I prep a roll of Colorama which we attach each piece to using spray mount, just to give it some rigidity. I feel quite massive. We've had fun putting this together. We've learnt a few things. One is that you're never going to get it right. You do one line, that's all fine. As soon as you start on the second line, it's like, oh, okay. And the third is even worse. Once you've got a corner of one, well, a side of one line, a side there, and trying to get those two, no, because we're humans and no one can lay them that perfectly. But what we have realised is, as long as you get the river right, everything will be fine, because that's the really obvious thing. Everything else is just a grey mess. So get the river right and you'll be okay. All right, last one.
Oh yeah, do we have to compensate for...
There's a lot of compensation. That road goes nowhere now, but I think that's... How can that... Hang on, I want to try and get that bit right.
Yeah.
And then whatever happens on the line I'm not looking at, we'll just go with. Oh look, that's not too bad actually. All right.
So this is like the most primitive sat-nav.
Sticking paper to paper is fun. Bombing cities is not okay.
It's hard to find that kind of perfectly clear without clouds.
Yeah, I was going to say, you need a clear day.
So this is another trick really, it's day for night photography on a background.
Yeah, I might just trim that along there and then, yeah, then it's time to get it on a frame. I guess maybe we just get it out, lay it on top and see.
Yeah.
We barely use them. If anything, we just move them around, as is the case with a lot of that stuff that you can't bear to throw away. Oh my word!
Fixed there, buzz.
Oh, it's like it's made for it. Oh! Obviously, it'd be nice to have the support to stop it from sagging or whatever, but if we put a lot of staples into it, it's not going to go anywhere,
sure.
I don't think. And then we flip it up vertical and then start scratching. Wiki wiki.
That's a lucky size.
It is really fortunate, isn't it? See, you hold on to stuff long enough, it becomes useful. And then you trip and kill yourself. Just try and get this as straight and tight as possible. We use those wooden supports to temporarily hold the paper up while we fasten the edges to the frame with staples. Nice! Hee haha! Cool. Alright, so I'll put some braces onto that, weight it, and then we can begin work. I love this bit where you first frame up on your shot, on what you've been making, when you've been sort of making something for a while, and like just to our eye it just looks like EastEnders. It looks like a wallpaper or something like that, but then when you put it inside a frame, like I'm almost getting vertigo. I feel like I'm 20,000 feet up. That's nice as well. We're actually able to get quite a bit of travel on that. Because the plan was to do this locked off, but what's nice is because of the scale of this thing, even just a really steady little tilt on that does look like we're just flying over it. Yeah, it's one of those things where you're like, I can't believe how good that looks. Right, time to start scoring, time to start making holes. This is going to take some time. We're going to set some lights up behind it and then just start scratching away. And the idea being that it's all going to be backlit, and as we start scraping away and making holes, it's going to start looking like that stuff's on fire. So ultimately the plan is to actually shoot it, you know, level to the floor, but obviously raised up with the lights underneath it, right? And then we'll shoot top down. In some respects, it would be easier to shoot it this way, way easier. But because we want to start adding some stuff, adding some smoke, that will sit much better if it's laid horizontal. But also we're going to start adding some little fibre-fill clouds, right? To give us some depth. Also, when it's lit with some ambient, it'll also create some little shadows, and then we'll start to get a sense of heights and depth. But what's nice is we can basically kind of plan out our lighting, whether it wants to be soft or whether it wants to be hard or whatever. We can do all of the tests in a nice, easy setup. And then once we know what works, then we know exactly what we need to do when we go level. I guess we just get started and just see how it's coming through.
Yeah.
And I think maybe we start light, come back, have a look, see where we want it to be hotter, make some actual holes, see how long it takes.
Choose your weapon.
Choose your weapon. Probably doesn't need the flight, but I like the look of it, so we'll leave it on. Let's drop the house lights.
Yeah.
And then we can really
Let's
see what we're doing. So that's scratched away, and I don't think anything's really getting through. Because yeah, the hope was that if we just take the top layer of paper away, that we'll still get a bit of something coming through the grey, but that may or may not happen. But it is always that kind of balance, isn't it, with like rigidity, because we didn't want to use too thin a paper that it would just fall apart, but also backing it with something that might just let a little spill through. Because there's a possibility that all of this will just be too dark to see. And so one could ask the question, well then why bother with the whole city print, right? But the point is, when you have something to work with, it's like a template of where to put your holes. And if you're working with a real city image, you end up following lines of buildings, lines of roads, and it does make a difference. You can tell when something is a cityscape by where all of those lines are. So that's kind of the reason. But also, we're going to do an ambient pass a bit brighter so that we can actually lift up levels of the city so that we can see a bit of it as well. So we'll get both.
It's very similar to if you're in a plane at night and you overfly a city or a town. Sometimes you don't see anything of the buildings, it's just the lights. Now in this example it's different because it's supposedly during wartime where they would have blackout, where no street lights.
They would turn all the lights off intentionally so that they couldn't see what they were hitting.
Yeah. So the supposed light sources that we are seeing are from the fires, the incendiaries, and we're trying to make it look as realistic as possible from like the reconnaissance photos and the film footage from back then. Yeah. It's not necessarily a nice thing, but it's a historical thing.
We're going to be here all day.
Yep.
Yo humans, the great YouTube algorithm in the sky tells me that is really going to help us if you subscribe to the channel if you're liking it, like the video if you're enjoying what you're seeing, hit the notification bell because that way you'll know when we're dropping new stuff, and we're running a Patreon. And honestly, probably the best way that you can support us is to join our Patreon page. It just helps us out and it's going to help us keep this channel alive.
We're actually using an aerial photograph that's been blown up on several sheets of A1 paper. For budgetary reasons, we've done it in black and white because it's cheaper. And it's also going to be good enough for our needs because our scene is set at night where we're not going to see much colour anyway in the background. What colour we are going to see is any bounce or ambient feel from the supposed fires that are happening. So we can get away with a monochrome background, no problem at all. The benefit of using a photographic image for the background is that it's real and it will register on camera what we do see of it as a real view of a city. And it's just a lot cheaper and quicker than painting one. This takes long enough poking the holes through. There's a lot of real war reconnaissance photos shot at a high resolution on large format cameras. For this particular use, I've actually used a modern day image. It was easier to find one in a high resolution online that was copyright free and that we can easily Photoshop out some very obvious modern landmarks, like an obvious football stadium that was a modern design or a modern series of buildings. So this is kind of in itself a bit of a composite image.
Next we start looking at what effects different lights and gel combinations give us. And we throw some smoke in there to get a better sense of how the light will diffuse. We find that placing JP's small RGB LED light right up close to the areas where we've scored the paper heaviest gives the most intense, fiery look. That does look pretty cool actually, right up against it.
Yeah. So you got a.
It does kind of look like fire.
Hotspot.
Yeah. Huh. That works. See, my big holes are working there. So we're going to rig our camera on the Mega Boom. It's not going to move or anything like that. This is no crane. It's not made for moving, but it is made for holding heavy stuff over things. We're going to mount the CineShooter onto here, safety chained, of course. And then what we'll do is we'll have just a little tilt move programmed into the CineShooter, and then we're just going to run that for each take. And then we've got a nice move for all of our passes. Oh yeah. So this does 2 axes, pan and tilt. But we only need 1 for this, so nice and simple. It's quite a nice little test run. Once our stand and boom are safely weighted, I cut a couple of legs out of 2x4 timber so we can tabletop our map. While I screw those in, JP makes sure all our paper sheets are well stuck. We weight down the table to keep it steady and then start rigging our camera for power and monitoring. Meanwhile, JP connects his tablet to the CineShooter so that we can control it remotely. Back there. Oh, I need some WD-40 in there. I might just put another bag on the other end. I think it's a little heavy on one side. You can throw another sandbag on the back side. Oh.
No, it looks like it's loose.
Yeah, it is. I love these cameras for so many reasons, but can I please just ask that in the next iteration that you dispense with the HDMIs and give us a BNC connection? Yeah. HDMIs, rubbish.
Also, if you had it chained like that, it might want to reset the pan.
Right.
So any cables that you've got will probably want to wrench them out. So.
JP makes a good point here that, particularly when working with MoCo or stabilization rigs, it's wise to use coiled cables where possible, as they will stretch to 2 or 3 times their length to prevent stress on your camera's connections.
Picture up.
So we position our camera over the center of the map and program in a 30-second tilt on the CineShooter. We then position our light directly underneath the first fire spot to see how it's looking. We also want to see how a larger diffuse light set further from the surface looks. We're going to do passes with both, so we find our preferred stop and ISO setting with these 2 different lighting setups. Oh God, that looks dope! Okay. The camera's all rigged. We've programmed in the CineShooter to do a really steady, about 30-second tilt. So we're basically covering the whole area of our map in a little tilt. Now what we're going to do is we're going to light each hot spot where we've poked little holes and made some slightly bigger holes, and we're going to put our light underneath, quite close underneath it, and then anywhere where we've revealed quite a big space, that's just going to come through like a building on fire. And then it'll just kind of spread, and all of those little holes that we've poked will all just look like little fires around it. So we're now going to run through passes, and we're going to move the light to each space. Now the reason why we're doing that, apart from the fact that we don't have loads and loads of lights to put under each fire, as it were, with all of those individual lit spots, with each one doing a pass, when we put all of those together, we'll have our move with all of those areas lit up at the same time. But what's nice is, because we've lit them all in individual passes, we can vary the luminance on each fire. And in some cases where we've got quite a big space, we're going to actually place the light in a couple of different places within that spread. And then what we can do is we can vary the intensity between those 2 lit passes and actually kind of give a slightly kind of changing glow. So it's just different ways that we can actually animate what is essentially a still shot. Okay, ready? Shall I roll?
Hang on a second.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Ready to roll?
Yep. Okay. And we're rolling.
This will send it back to the start, and then...
All right, ready?
Yeah.
Ready.
Okay, done. Yep.
Let's
nice.
Move the light, between the 2. Yeah, good. Great. Once we've shot our initial passes with each spot lit, we start opening up some of the larger spots to let more light through, to increase the size of some of our fires.
And we're done. Yep.
We grab a quick ambient pass, just using the house lights before we bring in an old friend. Fibers?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're using Old Faithful fibre-fill. Obviously previously we've used this as clouds, and we might do a cloud pass on this as well, but for now we're just looking at all of our hotspots where we've got the biggest kind of tears and things like that, where we know the fire has been brightest, and then just dressing in some of this as smoke. We've decided that our wind direction is westerly, and so we are literally just putting it in and then drifting it from the source, then across the map a little bit, and then just kind of thinning it out here and there. It is a little bit of a suck it and see. We're going to just dress a load on as we think it will look good, and then stick a light underneath and see how it looks. As expected, the fibre-fill is adding the depth we needed to bring this 2D image to life by replicating huge plumes of smoke. We shoot passes with each of our major hotspots lit, maintaining smoke levels throughout. So we're just doing a really heavy-handed, loads of smoke pass. We've got everything that we think, I think we're pretty happy, aren't we?
Yeah,
in terms of like clean passes for some nice bright ones. We've got some lovely mixtures of lighting under our clouds. Now we're just going for it with the clouds, just why not? You can see, even in this light, with the house lights up, as we're adding more, it's spreading that light out, it's diffusing. All of those clouds are lighting up and lighting up and lighting up. This is gonna look so good in the dark. This is a lot of action we're going.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In a similar way to how we had that nice decay from the flash bulbs in the cloud episode, because we're shooting this diffused, heavily diffused pass separately, what we can actually do in the comp is actually fade these in harmony with some flashes we may put in to give an impression of a large scale.
Actual explosions happening.
Yeah, or fires, you know, becoming at their peak.
Yeah.
And then, and then dying down or changing.
I love it. This is the power of layering, right? This is the power of multiple passes.
Yeah.
Is you can shoot all of this stuff. Sometimes you can go heavy-handed, and then you can always bring it back. But you know, get all of it and then play around later.
Yeah, that's good. And then big.
As we're capturing passes with our heavy smoke plumes, JP spots something as I'm moving lights around.
When you brought the big lamp off, lamp out to adjust the gel one, and it was just firing raw into the lens, but just like giving a veiling flare. I can't really explain what it does until
No, okay, I just need to see this.
Pull it out, pull it out, pull it out, pull it out. Yeah, there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really? I want to see this. I want to see this.
So that will give the impression that there's a hotter fire burning
bloody hell
beyond the range of the camera.
Oh, that's quite mad. Gotta love those happy accidents. That looks mad.
Like a veiling flare. And it's also giving us another ambient path.
Wow. Wowza. Wow.
So for the last pass that we're going to do, we're going to add some searchlights by using very, very small white LEDs on the arms of servo motors. And I've got a little gadget here, which is a servo recorder. And I've already programmed in some random sweep moves that the searchlights will look like they're searching the sky. And simply just mounted this on a board and then offer it up as a few different passes. And that will just give us an effect of lights coming from the ground, searching for our bombers.
Thanks, little servo guy. You were great. Join us for the next episode where we shoot our Lancaster miniature with motion control to give us multi-axis movement, and then take those passes into our edit to create a whole squadron to complete our shot. Right, time for me to sign out. I hope you enjoyed this one. I certainly did. Lots of fun to be had with paper prints, paper backgrounds. I reckon we're going to be doing more of that because there really is. There's so much you can do with this, and I hope we've demonstrated actually you can really achieve some incredible effects with this kind of thing. So, I'm off. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video if you got something out of it, hit the notification bell, and leave us a comment. Let us know, are you enjoying the show? Anything you'd like us to try out? And of course, we are running a Patreon, so please do join up to that and help us out, because we like to help you out. All right, y'all. See you next time.